Story 1. The man who followed me home. When I was 22, I started seeing a guy I met through a dating app. His name was Hunter. We went on about 4 dates over the span of a little more than a month. Things seemed fine at first. Our first date was casual, just a quick coffee meet-up, more like a screening to see if we clicked. The second was at a local bar where we had some drinks, got a bit of a buzz, and had a decent time. The third was dinner, and that's when I began to question things. Not that anything went horribly wrong, but I started wondering if we really connected. Something about him felt slightly off. Still, we ended the night with a kiss, the first and only one, and I took that as a sign that things were okay. Our fourth date was when everything changed. We met for drinks again, but this time I wasn't as excited. I was paying closer attention to his behavior, little quirks that suddenly felt more unsettling than endearing. His mannerisms were hard to pin down, but they gave off a kind of detached, almost cold vibe. He drank too much, more than the other times, and he got really touchy, trying to kiss me at the bar, even though people were sitting nearby. I'm not comfortable with PDA, so I politely turned him down. A few minutes later, I said I was tired and suggested we call it a night. He paid the bill, we got our coats, and walked out. As we reached our cars, he suddenly asked very directly if I wanted to go home with him. I told him no, that I was tired and had work the next day. That wasn't true, but I didn't want to get into it. He kept pushing, suggesting he could drive me to work the next day. I found it absurd, whether he was drunk or not, and I knew then that I wouldn't see him again. I got into my car, which was parked across the street, and started to drive home, slowly, since I had a couple drinks and wanted to be cautious. That's probably why I noticed it. A car behind me. Same one through multiple turns. At a red light, I realized it was Hunter. I texted him, "Are you following me?" He replied almost instantly, "Yes, just want to make sure you get home safe." I tried calling him, but he wouldn't answer. I pulled over and texted him again, "Stop following me, I'm fine." His car paused for a moment, then drove off. Later that night, after I got home, he texted again, "Hope I didn't freak you out. Sorry I drank too much. Maybe next time we can do something more chill, like dinner at my place." I didn't reply. The next morning, "Is the vibe dead?" 2 hours later. So I finally responded, "Hey, I enjoyed getting to know you, but I just don't think our personalities are a good match. I want to focus on myself right now, hope you understand." That's when the tone changed. He replied, "No, I don't understand. You strung me along for 4 dates just to say this? How about you pay me back for everything I bought you?" I got a few more. Angry texts, some that were overly personal and unsettling, and that's when I blocked him. I thought that would be the end. It wasn't. No caller ID calls started coming in, one after another. I ignored them. Eventually they stopped. Then, one day when I got home from work and my parents weren't there, I found a bouquet of flowers on the doorstep. With it, a card. "I'm sorry. Please give me another chance." He knew where I lived. That shook me. I sent him a final text before blocking his number again. "Do not contact me again. Do not come to my house. If you do, I'll file for a restraining order." I thought that would be enough, but I was wrong. Story 2. The kid who wouldn't let go. This all started when I was in the 6th grade, right around Halloween. I was staying after school with some friends to help decorate a haunted house for the Halloween carnival. It was fun. We got to hang out, goof off a bit, and earn some free pizza while we worked. One of the other kids who always stayed late with us was a boy I'll call Chris. He seemed like a decent kid. Funny, cool, easy to talk to. He never gave me a reason to feel uneasy, at first. Fast forward 2 weeks. Out of nowhere, a group of girls in my grade came up to me, all giggling and excited. They said I had a secret admirer who was going to text me that night. I was curious, maybe even a little flattered. I didn't expect what came next. Later that night, just before bed, I got a message on Messenger, the app I used to talk to my parents when I was home alone. It was from Chris. I had completely forgotten that I added him on Facebook during Halloween. The message simply said, "Maya, I need to talk to you." Concerned, I responded, "Yeah? What's going on? Everything okay?" I still wish I hadn't replied. Typing dots appeared and stayed there. 2 full minutes of him writing. When the message finally came through, it was a long paragraph, a confession of love. He said I'd been driving him crazy. Since Halloween, he talked about trying to impress me at recess with his soccer skills and said he was tired of being ignored. It ended with, "I want you to notice me. So, will you be my girlfriend?" I stared at the screen, stunned. I barely knew this guy. Trying to be kind, I said I didn't feel the same way, that I just wanted to be friends. He didn't take it well. He kept asking why, again and again, and I kept giving answers until he finally stopped replying. The next day at school, things got worse. Some of his friends started coming up to me, saying Chris wanted to kiss me, and that he'd do it even if he had to corner me. I took that as a threat and told my teacher. She told me to stay in the classroom during recess and lunch, and to run back if he ever got close. That didn't feel like enough, so I reported it to the principal. He said he'd take care of it, and I felt a little better until later that week. I lived right across the street from school. One afternoon, I got home, and within minutes someone knocked on the front door. I peeked out the window just in time to see someone duck behind a parked car. It was Chris. When my mum opened the door, there was no one there, just a note addressed to me. It said there was a surprise waiting under my brother's Cadillac in the driveway. My mum checked. There was nothing. But after that day, the car wouldn't start. We never found out what happened to it, and my brother had to sell it. Things kept spiraling. Chris's friends wouldn't leave me alone, constantly telling me to give him a chance. I even caught Chris taking pictures of me walking home. I only noticed because I heard the faint sound of an iPhone camera behind me. Every morning, I'd wake up to a message from him. "I can't wait to see you at school. I bet you'll look beautiful today." It was turning into full-on stalking. Eventually, I was called to the counselor's office. I thought they'd tell me Chris was finally being punished, maybe even that the police would get involved. But instead, the counselor told me, "Boys will be boys, they do crazy things when they're in love. You should feel flattered." She said this was a learning experience, something every girl had to deal with. At the time, I didn't realize how disturbing that was, but now I'm horrified. I went home that day and told my mum everything. She was furious. Later that week, we were both called to the principal's office. I remember my mum saying, "What are you waiting for? For something bad to happen to her before you step in?" Neither the principal nor the counselor said a word. But I don't think Chris was ever punished. He just got away with it. And it didn't end there. One weekend night, when my parents were out shopping, I was about to go to bed after watching YouTube. Then I heard something tap my window. That was strange. My room is on the 2nd floor. It happened again. And again. The sound of something hitting the glass. I finally gathered the courage to peek through the curtain. And there he was, Chris, standing in the yard, holding a handful of rocks, looking directly at my window. He was about to throw another when he saw me. I quickly pulled away. After checking every window and door, I returned to my room to find 4 messages from him. "Why did you leave? I just want to talk. I'm sorry. All I wanted was a kiss. Please forgive me. You're not who I thought you were. Bye." I blocked him after that. Thankfully, I never had another incident with him. Even though we attended the same school all the way through senior year, I heard he was eventually arrested for something. But to this day, what scares me most isn't Chris. It's the fact that an adult, someone meant to protect me, told me I should feel grateful for the attention, that it was just part of growing up. I just hope that counselor no longer works with kids, and that I never have to see Chris again. Story 3. The Closet. This happened a few years ago when I was 23. At the time, I had just ended a relationship and was living alone in a townhouse I had bought in my hometown. It was a great place, 2 floors, spacious, quiet. I worked a well-paying job and was finally starting to feel independent. That's when I matched with Emily on a dating app. She seemed nice, Cute, smart, a little shy. We met up for dinner, and even though I felt a bit awkward, she told me afterward that she had a great time and wanted to see me again. I was relieved and honestly excited. We went on a few more dates and eventually started dating seriously, but things started changing. At first, it was little things. She texted me all the time. If I didn't respond fast enough, she'd follow up with multiple question marks or even call repeatedly. Then she wanted us to share our phone locations. I didn't love the idea, but I agreed, thinking it would ease her anxiety. It didn't. One night, I was hanging out with my friends Phil and Mark at Phil's house when Emily suddenly showed up, uninvited. She came down to the basement and started yelling at me in front of everyone because I hadn't answered her messages. I apologized to my friends, stepped outside with her, and we argued in the street. She demanded to come home with me, but I told her I needed space. When I got home, I sent her a long message asking for a break. That didn't go over well. She started blowing up my phone, texts, missed calls, pounding on my front door, ringing the doorbell over and over. At one point, my neighbor came outside and asked what was going on. Emily yelled at him too, calling me names and refusing to leave. Eventually she did, but I was shaken. I stopped sharing my location with her, and immediately, she noticed, she texted me in all caps, furious. That was when I knew for sure I needed to cut all ties. I blocked her number. I thought that would be the end. But it wasn't. A few days later, I came home and found flowers and a card on my doorstep. The card was from Emily, apologizing and asking for another chance. What scared me most was that she knew where I lived. I had never given her my address. That night, I sent her one final message. Please don't contact me again. Don't come to my house. If you do, I'll go to the police. She didn't respond. I thought that was it. Then, one night, I woke up to faint noises downstairs. I figured it was nothing at first, but then I heard a door creak open from inside the house. I live alone. I slipped out, fell off bed and hid under it while whispering to 911 on the phone. I could hear soft footsteps, and then someone opened the drawer next to my bed. I held my breath. Then a voice, low and familiar, cursed under its breath. It was Emily. She sat down on my bed. I could see her shoes from under the bed skirt. She stayed there, silent, for what felt like an eternity. Then she got up, shut the drawer, and walked out of the room. I heard her go downstairs, and the front door creak closed. The police arrived soon after, did a full sweep of the house, but found no one. Every window was unlocked, and one, big enough for someone to crawl through, looked disturbed. They took my statement, and I hoped that would be the end. It wasn't. A week later, I was woken up in the middle of the night by a series of messages from an unknown number. It was Emily. She sent long apologies, begged to talk, said she missed me, and ended the flood of messages with, "Wake up, wake up, wake up." She sent it 8 times. I finally replied, "This is too much. Please stop. This confirms I can't have you in my life." What happened next is something I'll never forget. Seconds after I hit send, I heard a scream from inside my bedroom closet. It was Emily. She burst out of the closet yelling and holding a knife. I threw open the door, ran, and held it shut behind me. She started stabbing the door from the other side. The blade punched through the wood. I screamed that I loved her, a lie, just to distract her, and it worked. She calmed down. While keeping the door shut, I quietly called 911 again. I told her I was going through a rough time and just needed to think. She said that's all she wanted to hear. She asked me to open the door. I stalled, telling her to throw the knife across the room. I needed to hear it hit the floor. She did. I opened the door and tackled her. She fought back, but I held her down, still on the phone with 911, yelling my address. When the police arrived, they burst through the front door, ran up the stairs, and arrested her. She was charged with multiple serious offenses. The legal process afterward was long and exhausting. I never wanted to believe someone I cared about could turn dangerous. But it happened. And to this day, even writing this anonymously, it still feels surreal. I learned the hard way. Sometimes the signs are there. We just don't want to see them. And that wraps up another story, reminding us of the importance of trusting our instincts and setting boundaries when something doesn't feel right. If you've been through something similar, know you're not alone. Talking about tough experiences can be frightening, but also liberating. And if you want to share your story, the comments are open, or send it in so it can be shared here. Enjoyed the video? Then leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss another chilling tale. Every week, we share real, unforgettable stories. Until next time. And remember, be cautious of what's or who's lurking, much closer than you think.